You should check out his new radio show, The Milo Show, which debuted this week. You can link to it at dangerous.com, The Milo Show at dangerous.com. Milo, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. How are you?
Well, I'm good. So there's a bunch of stuff to talk to you about that I'm sure you have trenchant opinions on. But what do you what do you make of the memo and the skullduggery at the FBI and the DOJ?
I like two things most in this life, and it's one of them is Trump gloating, and the other is the left squirming. And today we get to enjoy both of them. Sometimes they don't always coincide, and today they do. I think, I spoke to my friend Roger Stone, who said that if this memo has everything in it that we think it does, this is the biggest political scandal in the nation's history. I think it remains to be seen if that's true or not. But it is now incontrovertibly true that Trump has been militated against by, various branches of the federal government, including the intelligence agencies. And what this does is yet again prove, once again, it keeps happening, things that conservatives and Republicans are initially laughed at for raising and initially sniggered at by ABC and NBC and CBS, once again turns out true. It's this phrase, the deep state, which has been scoffed at by CNN hosts, turns out 100% accurate. That's exactly what was happening. Obama appears to be up to his neck in it. They just weren't expecting Trump to win at all, and to see them scramble and panic and throw everything they have at him after the fact, having never expected him to be sitting where he is today, it's just a beautiful, delightful sight, however it ends up playing out.
Well, former FBI Director James Comey, he's been ripping into the Nunes memo, calling those behind it weasels and liars, saying, quote, all should appreciate the FBI speaking up. I wish more of our leaders would, but take heart. American history shows that in the long run, weasels and liars never hold the field so long as good people stand up. Not a lot of schools or streets named for Joe McCarthy. Keep in mind, much of the controversy about the FISA court being kept in the dark happened on James Comey's watch. And FBI agents now accused of political bias, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr, all worked under James Comey. Let's bring in former FBI Assistant Director Jim Kallstrom. Great to have you on the show, Jim. What's your reaction to Jim Comey's tweets here?
I think he's 180 degrees out. He's the weasel. I mean, he's the one who brought these investigations into the headquarters, had the sycophants around him, whatever that number is. It's a small number. It's not the FBI agents. They knew nothing about what was going on, regular agents. And he's the one that signed the applications, not the affidavit, but the applications that go over to the court. I don't think we still know who actually signed the affidavit. Be interesting to see who that is. But no, I mean, the facts speak for themselves. I mean, the applications speak for themselves. The fact the court order was obtained, what's in the affidavit, that all speaks for itself. So, to the contrary, the weasels are Comey and his gang.
Yeah, it seems that the FISA court did not know that this was an unverified dossier. And Comey himself said it was unverified, but only about a year later. I mean, you've read the memo. Is this worse than you thought?
No, I kind of figured, Liz, it would be what's in the memo. I think we had hints of that, for weeks now. And I think there's an awful lot more to come. I think this is just the opening round. I mean, it doesn't even get into, the unmaskings, Uranium One, or just all the other things. But, I mean, this in itself, there's major federal felonies there. I mean, they lied to a federal judge. They perjured themselves. They presented false information knowingly to the court. These are all major federal felonies, and all the people that signed that, all the way up the line, are probably going to be, I would hope, the matter, the grand jury is going to look at that, and that's serious things that they've done. And it puts the whole system at great risk. And it's just outrageous. It really is. And the fact that the FBI has been blackened by, what a few of these sycophants have done, weaklings that couldn't stand up to the political pressure of the Obama administration. And I think we only know 5% of what we're going to know in another few months.
Do you think James Comey should face federal charges?
Well, I think he's exposed to numerous federal charges: violation of the Federal Records Act, perjury, clear perjury up on the Congress, and probably maybe even obstruction of justice. I think he has some exposure there without question.
And we have yet to talk about Obama's role in this. Jim Kallstrom, we love having you on. Thank you so much for your service to our country. We really appreciate your insights here.
Okay, listen, it's my pleasure, but it's not pleasurable to be involved in this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
He was right from the beginning. They were spying on him. They were wiretapping. They were listening in on Trump Tower. They were so desperate that he not be elected that they misled the most secret court of the United States in order to spy on an opposing political campaign in order to undermine a presidential election. Members of the highest echelon in our FBI and Department of Justice conspired to prevent an outsider from breaking the establishment stranglehold on the American people. They needed a reason to spy, so they made one up. They used a dossier of lies paid for by a major political party, the Democrat National Committee, and a presidential candidate, Hillary Rodham Clinton, to dupe that court. They swore to facts they knew were lies to get what they wanted in order to surveil a candidate they could not imagine being president. A cabal of arrogant, condescending employees of our government whose salaries we pay thought that we didn't count. They so wanted Hillary to become president that they violated all the rules and engaged in a charade so we would think there was a real investigation on the emails. They met on the tarmac. They gave people who didn't qualify immunity from prosecution without getting the required incriminating evidence. The FBI then changed lanes with the DOJ and publicly announced a decision in violation of all ethics rules. And they changed legal definitions to satisfy their political goal. They thought she'd be elected and no one would ever know. But she wasn't. So they plotted an insurance policy to bring him down anyway. You know, I've often talked about the Clintons coming on the scene from Arkansas in their bell-bottoms as pigs at the trough. But they really outdid themselves this time, using a foundation in name only to spread the wealth while infecting our departments of justice and the FBI. All the while, their comrades weaponized our tools of intelligence. This is what they do in third world countries, not in America. It's time for holier-than-thou Jim Comey and his band of conspirators from McCabe and Strzok on down to have Lady Justice take off her blindfold and see them for what they are. The arrogance of those seeking a change in a presidential election is unheard of in the United States. And let me be clear. This is not an attack on the FBI or the Department of Justice, because these agencies are bigger than a couple of tainted inhabitants. This is not about one party versus another. It's not even about spying on an American citizen. It's about something even more. It's about an attempt to change the course of American history using the most powerful agencies in the United States government. How dare you? And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, #JudgeJanine.
When people run around this weekend with their hair on fire, I think there's a reason for people to run around. Again, this opens up a whole can of worms. Why did the FBI and DOJ try to hide this from Congress? Number one, they were subpoenaed in order to get this material. Why did they hide it from Congress? Number two, why were Democrats trying to shut down the memo? What exactly? I assume they'll come out today and talk about which parts of this were out of context, but we haven't heard exactly what was out of context yet. If nothing was out of context, this is really bad. Number three, what other information, if any, was used to get that FISA warrant on Carter Page? Right, so there are just a bunch of questions that are unanswered here, and the reason that I'm hesitating is because I really don't want to say anything out of line about what exactly has happened. So here it is. Okay, so finally we are now getting this to load. It's really hard to do this in real time when the House website is down. We're trying to load desperately the actual memo so I can read the text of it to you. Okay, so here it is. Purpose. This memorandum provides members an update on significant facts relating to the committee's ongoing investigation into the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation and their use of Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act during the 2016 presidential election cycle. Our findings, which are detailed below, raise concerns with the legitimacy and legality of certain DOJ and FBI interactions with the FISA court and represent a troubling breakdown of legal processes established to protect the American people from abuses related to the FISA process. So now they go right into it. On October 21st, 2016, the DOJ and FBI sought and received a FISA probable cause order authorizing electronic surveillance on Carter Page from the FISA court. Page is a U.S. citizen who served as volunteer advisor to the Trump presidential campaign. Consistent with requirements under FISA, the application first had to be certified by the director or deputy director of the FBI. It then required the approval of the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, that would have been Rod Rosenstein, or the Senate-confirmed Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division. The FBI and DOJ obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals from the FISC, that's the FISA court. As required by statute, a FISA order on an American citizen must be renewed by the FISA court every 90 days, and each renewal requires a separate finding of probable cause. Then Director James Comey signed 3 FISA applications in question on behalf of the FBI. Deputy Director Andrew McCabe signed 1. Then DAG, that's the Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, and then Acting Deputy Attorney General Dana Boente and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein each signed 1 or more FISA applications on behalf of the DOJ. Due to the sensitive nature of foreign intelligence activity, FISA submissions, including renewals before the FISC, are classified. As such, the public's confidence in the integrity of the FISA process depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, particularly as it relates to the surveillance of American citizens. However, the court's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, reinforced by 90-day renewals of surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production to the court of all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA application that is known by the government. In the case of Carter Page, the government had at least 4 independent opportunities before the court to accurately provide an accounting of the relevant facts. However, our findings indicate that, as described below, material and relevant information was omitted. Okay, so what they're saying is that the FBI and the DOJ essentially lied by omission to the FISA court. Okay, number 1. The dossier compiled by Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier, on behalf of the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign, formed an essential part of the Carter Page FISA application. Steele was a longtime FBI source who was paid over $160,000 by the DNC and Clinton campaign via the law firm Perkins Coie and research firm Fusion GPS to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump's ties to Russia. Neither the initial application in October 2016 nor any of the renewals disclose or reference the role of the DNC, Clinton campaign, or any party or campaign in funding Steele efforts, even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were then known to senior DOJ and FBI officials. The initial FISA application notes Steele was working for a named U.S. person, but does not name Fusion GPS or Principal Glenn Simpson, who was paid by U.S. law firm representing the DNC, even though that was known by the DOJ at the time. The application does not mention Steele was ultimately working on behalf of and paid for by the DNC and Clinton campaign, or that the FBI had separately authorized payment to Steele for the same information. So that's the big point here, right, is that the dossier was the basis for the FISA warrant, and that was the basis for launching the entire investigation. 2. The Carter Page FISA application also cited extensively a September 23, 2016 Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff, which focuses on Page's July 2016 trip to Moscow. This article does not corroborate the Steele dossier because it is derived from information leaked by Steele himself to Yahoo News. The Page FISA application incorrectly assesses that Steele did not directly provide information to Yahoo News. Steele has admitted in British court filings he met with Yahoo News and several other outlets in September 2016 at the direction of Fusion GPS. Perkins Coie was aware of Steele's initial media contacts because they hosted at least one meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2016 with Steele and Fusion GPS where this matter was discussed. So they're knocking down the assumption that there was other information used for the Carter Page warrant, right? Because the Carter Page application originally included this Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff, but that was coming from the same place, namely Christopher Steele. Steele was suspended and then terminated as an FBI source for what the FBI defines as the most serious of violations, an unauthorized disclosure to the media of his relationship with the FBI in an October 30th, 2016 Mother Jones article by David Korn. Steele should have been terminated for his previous undisclosed contacts with Yahoo and other outlets in September before the FISA application before the Page application was sent to the court in October, but Steele improperly concealed from and lied to the FBI about those contacts. So they're now suggesting that Steele should be prosecuted for lying to the FBI. Steele's numerous encounters with the media violated the cardinal rule of source handling, maintaining confidentiality, and demonstrated that Steele had become a less than reliable source for the FBI. Before and after Steele was terminated as a source, he maintained contact with the DOJ via then Associate Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr, a senior DOJ official who works closely with Deputy Attorneys General Yates and later Rosenstein. Shortly after the election, the FBI began interviewing Orr, documenting his communications with Steele. For example, in September 2016, I'm reading directly from this fabled 4-page memo put out by Devin Nunes, Steele admitted to Orr his feelings against then-candidate Trump when Steele said he was, quote, desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. Now, there's two ways to read that. One, Steele thought that Trump was actually in bed with the Russians and didn't want him to be president. Or two, he hated Trump and therefore trumped up all this stuff against Trump. This clear evidence of Steele's bias was recorded by Orr at the time and subsequently in official FBI files, but not reflected in any of the Page FISA applications. During the same period, Orr's wife, this is Deputy Attorney General, was employed by Fusion GPS to assist in the cultivation of opposition research on Trump. Orr later provided the FBI with all of his wife's Oppo research paid for by the DNC and Clinton campaign via Fusion GPS. The Orr's relationship with Steele and Fusion GPS was inexplicably concealed from the FISA court. So all of this smells terrible. All of this is super, super dirty stuff. And in just a second, we're going to go through the rest of the memo, and then we're going to get Trump's reaction to all of this. It sounds like he's preparing for mass firings. So things are about to heat up in a serious way. We'll get to all of that in just one second. First, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Helix Sleep. So if you're losing sleep lately, then you may need to catch up over the weekend, because let's face it, this is going to light up Twitter and Facebook and the media for the rest of the day. You're going to need some sleep over the weekend. That's why you need the best mattress, and that's what Helix Sleep does for you. We have a Helix Sleep mattress in our bedroom. It is spectacular. It is more comfortable than any other mattress I've ever slept on. I can say that honestly, certainly. Helix Sleep offers something that exists nowhere else. A mattress personalized to your unique preferences and sleeping style that will not set you back thousands of dollars. You go to helixsleep.com/Ben, you take a 2 to 3 minute sleep quiz. They'll build you a custom mattress. It's the best thing you've ever slept on. For couples, they'll even personalize each side of the mattress if you want. Everyone from GQ to Cosmopolitan to this show raving about Helix mattress, and it arrives direct to your door in a week. You pop open the box, it inflates right in front of you. You try it for 100 nights, and if you don't love it, they will pick it up and refund you in full. Go to helixsleep.com/Ben right now, and you get $50 toward your custom mattress. That's helixsleep.com/Ben. Again, helixsleep.com/Ben for $50 off your order. Again, helixsleep.com/Ben. Use the /Ben so that they know that we sent you as well. $50 off an already inexpensive mattress that sleeps as well as any mattress on the market. helixsleep.com/Ben. Check it out right now. Okay. Back to the Steele dossier memo, back to this Devin Nunes memo that is blowing up the internet right now. It actually shut down the government website. So here's what it says. So we've already established, according to this memo, a couple of things. One, we have established that the FISA warrant originally taken out on Trump campaign member Carter Page was taken out based on a dossier compiled by Christopher Steele on behalf of the DNC. That information was never revealed to the FISA court. There was apparently no other confirming information that was used. We also know now that Steele had an agenda against Trump and openly admitted such, and that he worked with the Deputy Attorney General, whose wife was busy compiling this information on behalf of the DNC and the Hillary campaign for Fusion GPS. The memo continues. According to the head of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, Assistant Director Bill Priestap, corroboration of the Steele dossier was in its infancy at the time of the initial Page FISA application. After Steele was terminated, a source validation report conducted by an independent unit within FBI assessed Steele's reporting as only minimally corroborated. Yet in early January 2017, Director Comey briefed President-elect Trump on a summary of the Steele dossier, even though it was, according to his June 2017 testimony, salacious and unverified. While the FISA application relied on Steele's past record of credible reporting on other unrelated matters, it ignored or concealed his anti-Trump financial and ideological motivations. Furthermore, Deputy Director McCabe testified before the committee in December 2017 that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FISA court without the Steele dossier information. So that's an amazing admission by McCabe that the Steele dossier was the only thing that allowed this investigation to start. And then we conclude the Page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos, but there is no evidence of any cooperation or conspiracy between Page and Papadopoulos. The Papadopoulos information triggering the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late July 2016 by FBI agent Peter Strzok. Strzok was reassigned by the special counsel's office to FBI Human Resources for improper text messages with his mistress, FBI attorney Lisa Page, no known relation to Carter Page, where they both demonstrated a clear bias against Trump and in favor of Clinton, whom Strzok had also investigated. The struck Lisa Page texts also reflect extensive discussions about the investigations orchestrating leaks to the media and include a meeting with Deputy Director McCabe to discuss an insurance policy against President Trump's election. Okay, that is the end of the memo. So the bottom line is, if you think that the Nunes memo covers everything, I mean, this is my show. I'm reading this in real time. So here's my real time take. If you think that the Nunes memo is the completion, is the entirety of all of the information in the Trump-Russia collusion case, then the whole thing is not only an empty vessel, it is a sting operation by the Clinton operation working in cahoots with the FBI and the DOJ. If there is nothing else there, if they can show nothing else there. And all this obstruction stuff, all of this Trump firing Comey, all of this Trump asking Rosenstein whose side he was on, all of this seems to fall by the wayside because, let's face it, if there's nothing there, and Trump is saying there's nothing there, why won't you guys side with me? That's not the same thing as him attempting to obstruct justice. So the memo is, in fact, a bombshell. There is something there that is shocking. And also, by the way, the idea that the memo endangers national security, which is what Democrats have been proclaiming, has been pretty much blown out of the water now that we've seen the memo. There's nothing there, by the way, that we hadn't already supposed. When I was asked about why, when I talked on the show about why the memo, what the memo said, I speculated the memo said exactly this, right? If you go back and listen to the shows, I speculated, I hadn't read the memo, that what the memo said was this. This was the center of the memo. And I said, if that's the case, how does this endanger national security? And yet, the Democrats were out there saying this over and over and over, like Jeff Merkley, the senator from Oregon. He came out and he said that if the memo were released, the intel community would stop talking with the House.
It also goes to the heart of the manipulation of very sensitive national secrets, highly classified information that is given to the Intelligence Committee with the understanding it will not be released in a fashion that endangers the United States or in a fashion that manipulates the information for political purposes. And so that understanding goes to the heart of how the committee is able to get sensitive information in the first place, why the government's willing to share it with the committee. So this really threatens to blow up the whole contract between the branches of government over sensitive information.
Okay, it's just ridiculous that this was the suggestion. First of all, the Congress oversees this agency. This is not how government works. Okay, the intelligence community doesn't get to tell Congress to stiff itself. The intelligence community is run by Congress. Right? Congress has oversight power over them. So the idea that the intelligence community will stop sharing is ridiculous. James Comey tweeted this yesterday. What an insufferable character he's turned out to be. Here's what James Comey tweeted yesterday. He said, "We should appreciate the FBI speaking up. I wish more of our leaders would. But take note, American history also shows that in the long run, weasels and liars never hold the field so long as good people stand up. Not a lot of schools or streets named for Joe McCarthy." So this isn't about Joe McCarthy at this point. This is about you oversaw an FBI that was seeking FISA warrants against American citizens based on shoddy intelligence, and you refused to even turn over that information to the FISA court. They couldn't even do this. I mean, this is insane. Speaking of insanity, members of the media, Al Sharpton, Chris Matthews, they're saying that this turns the Constitution on its butt, right? That this kills the Constitution. It kills the Constitution for the President of the United States to declassify material inside the executive branch. Like, they don't understand the Constitution. Here's Chris Matthews over at MSNBC making that case, or MSNBC, get up, come on the show, come in here. Misunderstand the Constitution, make a lot of money. Go.
About a constitutional crisis. It seems to me the Constitution has always been turned on its butt. We've got a Congress, a chairman of a committee on intelligence, which has historically been a bipartisan committee. Usually even-membered members. And they're basically there to work together and to try to find out if our intelligence committees are doing their job. And it's been turned into a tool of a president who's playing defense.
Okay, again, turned into a tool of a president playing defense. That's not what I'm seeing from the memo, so we'll have to see what the response is from Democrats. We'll have to see if they can bring forward more information. Again, the memo doesn't answer everything. It doesn't answer why the Donald Trump Jr. meeting happened, why he was showing willingness to collude with the Russians. It doesn't show why George Papadopoulos was lying to the FBI. Right? It doesn't cover everything, but it raises some pretty serious questions about how the FISA court does its business and whether the FBI and DOJ were lying in order to gain a FISA warrant and whether they have an agenda against Trump. Now, again, does that necessarily kill the Mueller investigation? Probably not, but it does set some pretty rigorous questions in front of particularly Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, who went forward with these FISA applications if all they were. But remember, Carter Page has not been indicted. Right? When all these indictments were about to come down, my understanding, my thought was that it was going to be Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn and Carter Page. There's been no indictment of Carter Page. So as far as we know, Carter Page was not involved in criminal activity. He's just an idiot who wanders around Russia looking for cash. Right? This doesn't actually mean that Carter Page was a criminal. So that means that you launched this entire investigation on the back of the only guy who hasn't been indicted that we thought would be indicted. The Manafort indictment, by the way, has nothing to do with the Trump campaign. The Manafort indictment has to do with him lying to the FBI. The George Papadopoulos indictment is the only one that has to do with the Trump campaign because he apparently lied to the FBI about meetings that he had in London with a Russian cutout. But it's not clear that Papadopoulos was working on behalf of the Trump administration or the Trump campaign. Trump campaign basically disowned Papadopoulos in the middle of the campaign. So all of this calls into serious question the entire investigation. Does it mean the investigation should be killed? Does it mean that the entire investigation should die? Probably not. But it's also important to know Papadopoulos was the counterintelligence investigation began before the FISA application on Page, but it was on Papadopoulos. So this is an important point, right? So it's an important point. So again, this is all weird and somewhat confusing, right? They'd been surveilling the members of the Trump campaign. Carter Page had been surveilled by FISA back in 2014. There are a lot of sketch characters working for all of this. But Papadopoulos was under investigation first. So while there are serious questions to be raised about the warrant on Carter Page, I'm trying to set out the timeline in my own head as we go along here. Devin Nunes just confirmed the New York Times narrative that Papadopoulos was actually under investigation first. So one of the things that the investigation is covering here is I want to clarify and I want to backtrack. Again, I'm doing this all in real time. So the original FISA application that was taken out against Carter Page, it's now clear from this timeline that is not what actually launched the investigation, because paragraph 5, let me reread that. Okay, this is the paragraph 5. The Page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos. The Papadopoulos information triggered the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late 2016 by FBI agent Peter Strzok. What's interesting about that, it's sort of buried in there and a little biased, and I had to read it twice because I'm getting texts from lawyers, our friends, is that if the Page FISA application mentioned information regarding Papadopoulos, that means that the investigation was already on regarding Papadopoulos. So it doesn't kill the entire Mueller investigation. What it does do is call into question how the FBI and the DOJ were pursuing that investigation. So that means that there should be serious consequences inside the FBI and the DOJ for the alacrity with which they sought to go after Carter Page, but it doesn't necessarily kill the entire investigation. So that may be the happy medium that we are coming to here. If that is the case, then that means that if Trump starts firing people in the Mueller investigation, that is probably a bad move. So it's not a nothing burger, but it is also not the end of the Mueller investigation. Okay, that may be that may be the best thing I can say. Now, Trump was asked he was asked specifically about Rosenstein, and Trump, being asked about Rosenstein, said that he may fire him, basically.
Thank you very much. You figure that one out.
Okay, so he's saying that maybe he'll fire Rosenstein. Maybe he should fire Rosenstein. Possible. Should he fire Mueller over this? Again, if the investigation commenced before Carter Page, then there's more to the investigation than just Carter Page, as I said before. So, there's some dirty stuff here, but is it everything that is cracked up to be originally on first read? No. If you're a little bit confused, that's okay.